Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 44. Justin, what's going on today, buddy?
Oh, long day. How about yourself?
Long day also, but that beats the alternative of a short day.
Yes.
That's I tell people, I'd rather have a long day than a short day.
You know, I'd rather earn my sleep.
Yeah.
And it's weird to say it like that, I guess, but...
Well, I thought that I had a really long day because I woke up and started my day at about 4:45, but you had me beat. I think you were up at 4, so you were about
4:18.
So about a half hour before me.
Jarred abruptly awake at 4:18.
Yeah, you went on a call, correct?
Yeah. So, we had a motor vehicle accident this morning. So, started real early, and then it's been all day ever since.
So, how have your days in general been going? Training going well?
Training's been doing really well. Trying to upregulate some cardio. Talking to you over the last week, we pretty much stalled out on the actual weight loss side of things for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Been holding real steady, but no actual weight loss. And, I was confused, and you said, well, how much cardio you been doing? And I was like, well, come to think of it, none.
Yeah.
So that'll do it. Whenever I got that injury in March, I've been kind of timid as far as going for runs or hikes other than hiking and, a little bit of walking, but nothing substantial. So,
and that's a position that I see not a ton of people in, but I've had people before where just kind of orthopedic issues that have accumulated over the years due to excessive weight or age or lifestyle.
Yeah.
But regardless, they have them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's difficult for them to lose weight. Because it's like, what's going to give? What's going to come first, the chicken or the egg? I can't lose weight because I can't do cardio, but I can't do cardio because I have this injury. So it's kind of,
that's where I was
mm-hmm.
for the longest time, and then broke over that hump originally, and then now we just had to battle over that injury.
And realistically, I'm not really married to a particular way of doing things. Like, you don't have to have cardio in your plan for anybody, but realistically, I think that cardio is obviously a much easier way to go about things. It's much easier to lose 200 pounds doing cardio than not doing cardio.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just the bottom line.
I've tried my whole life to lose 200 pounds and never, ever succeeded until I added a substantial amount of cardio.
Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes too, and I was having this conversation with somebody earlier, I think some people underestimate how far you can actually push on things and kind of be okay. So that's like the new thing that's trendy in the fitness world, especially in coaching, is marketing yourself to athletes with explaining to them how little they can do and still get the desired results.
Right.
So you'll have coaches that say, all my clients eat 400 grams of carbs a day and still lose weight. Or I have, X amount of bodybuilders that have placed at these shows, and zero of that, or all of them, had 0 minutes of cardio log for their prep. So my athletes don't do any cardio. And so that's kind of the thing that's pretty trendy now, is trying to market yourself accordingly so that people will think that it's going to be easier with you. And I think that because of that, it's made the opposite end of that look at as an extremist point of view. So doing lots of cardio, that's too extreme. Your body can't handle that. Or, dieting on super low calories, your body can't handle that. Ultimately, your body can handle that, and that's what's going to make you have progress. So I think that people have gotten away from wanting to suffer because it hasn't been trendy or marketed very much, but ultimately suffering is where you need to be if you want to get a desired result. So with you, with your weight loss, when you were eating pretty low calories, not substantially low or scary low, but obviously they were lower than what someone of your weight would be eating for maintenance, and then you added in a lot of cardio, the results followed. Right. I think that happens all the time. And I've had clients, and I kind of had to learn this as a coach over the years, where I've had a particular client, or clients, plural, several, where your weight loss stalls and you come into this moral or ethical dilemma where you don't want to push food too low, because you always try to upregulate before you downregulate. So for me, I always try to get people eating more first, so then we have more to pull away from.
Right.
But you're going to eventually land in a situation where you have an inevitable option of taking away food as your only source of continuing to make progress. And there have been instances, like I said, where I was, nervous to pull food because they're already very low. But I think that for particular periods of time, that's okay.
Right.
Like you can actually eat. I mean, my coach Austin, who we talk about in several episodes and is actually scheduled to be on with us next week. Austin, has eaten below 1,000 calories a day for certain periods of his prep, which, you have to provide some context there. That's not frequently and that's not chronic. That's just a couple days here or there. But that's also, an off-season 250-pound bodybuilder.
Right.
So if he can go that low in calories for, an extended period of time or a particular period of time, then so can the average person.
Right.
So I think that it's okay to suffer. I've just noticed that trend going on lately that like people are promoting their coaching services as being the best because they do the least amount of work. And I don't think that's...
I feel like it's misleading.
Oh, it's for sure it's misleading.
I mean, I don't like to talk about anybody else's services, but the proof's in the pudding. You have to do the work to get the results. There's no magic pill. There's no magic potion to make you lose weight or to make you successful at anything. You have to put in the work. I mean, it's just fact.
And I think that anecdotally, I could even certainly say that in the preps that I've done in the past, the ones that I've suffered the most, I ended up looking the best.
Right.
Now, how do you quantify that? It's difficult to say because, all my preps have been different. So like I've experimented with different things. Because I've worked with different coaches over the years. And there's been preps because people will ask me like, hey, what do you do for your prep? Like when you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show, what do you do? And I try to explain, well, it's different every time, and then I'll also get questions like what is best for a prep scenario? So let's stick with cardio since we're talking about it. What's best? High intensity interval training, or low intensity steady state cardio, or, doing cardio post-workout, doing cardio fasted in the morning. And I tell people, well, I've done it all and I've gotten lean every time.
Right.
So like, I can't really say, was one better per se than the other. I'm not really sure, but fasted cardio works, cardio post-workout works, high intensity cardio works, low intensity cardio works, caloric restriction works, fat burning supplements work,
Ultimately, it's what works for you.
Yeah.
What works best for you at that moment. So that's why we do things in spurts of time. So, a measurable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Just, a month, 2 months, 3 weeks, a year, who knows.
Well, it's sustainability too.
Yeah.
What works best for you, not
Long
necessarily
term.
just on the physiological standpoint, but like, long term. Like, can you sustain this? Can you continue this? I started working with someone from our gym about a week ago, and we're just in the beginning phases of him like getting all his food together and starting to implement the meals. And after a couple of days, I said to him, how's everything going? And he said, oh, it's going really well. He said it's so much easier than I'd anticipated, like what I was doing before. And he said, your meals are so easy to prep, everything's very and that's kind of how I structure everything with my clients. I know that everybody's got like different triggers, but for me, my number one trigger for failure or perceived failure on my end is time.
Yeah.
So if I have to do something because time is so sparse for me, I have to do things that don't require a ton of time. So like my meal prepping needs to be super efficient. My workouts need to be pretty efficient. I don't rush them, but there's a difference between rushing and being efficient.
No doubt.
But everything I do has to be efficient because of the lack of time. So like that's what I've always tried to do with my clients' planning, the meal planning, is make it so it's easy for them to prepare. And that also kind of mitigates the number of excuses that they can have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So.
Well, that kind of plays into like what I said in the beginning too about earning your sleep. When you have such a lack of free time to waste, that means you're earning the time that you are using for sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're packing your days full of activity. So you don't want to waste time making food. You don't want to waste time ever. No time needs to be wasted. It all has to be structured.
Yeah.
And sleeping's part of that.
I learned a lot about myself over the quarantine because I was always go, 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 but that was more a product of necessity more than it was what I thought that I had enjoyed.
Right.
Because when I got out of college, I have a lot of student loans. I have a house payment or rent, I have a car payment, I have all these bills when I'm finally no longer a student and I'm independent and on my own. Well, the salary that you're making as a starting teacher isn't very much. So I needed to supplement that with like my training and my coaching. So I kind of did it out of necessity. So in my estimation, when I first started off, all of my free time was allocated to something. So I didn't really have free time. That's kind of a misnomer in and of itself. But I was like constantly doing something because I had to. And then I've stuck with it. That's all I've ever known. And then during the quarantine situation, last spring/summer, when whatever you would, classify that time period as, once we went on quarantine and I was no longer in school and the gym was shut down, so I couldn't train clients there. And my online clients took a step back because most of them, didn't have jobs. And I said, it makes no sense financially for you to continue services if you don't have a gym to train at or whatever. So I don't want to say I had nothing to do, but comparatively and contextually to what I'm used to, you could say I had nothing to do.
Right.
And if you would have asked me before that situation, if I would have liked the opportunity to take a 2-month deload and just kind of decompress and let everything go and not be super busy, I would say, oh man, dude, I would love that more than anything in the world. That would be the greatest thing for me until it happened.
Right.
And I was very uncomfortable. I was anxious. I got to spend a lot of time with friends and family, which was awesome and irreplaceable. But at the same time, it was almost like I didn't know how to live when I took the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, you got to have that schedule.
Yeah, it was very, even like with the eating part, because like my eating got off, I don't want to say off track, but I didn't have to be as regimented because I wasn't working around certain variables. So like my pre-workout nutrition, an hour and a half and like everything's timed out. I didn't have to do that because, I wasn't working out all the time. Now, granted, I was working out, I guess working out would be the good term. I wasn't training.
Right.
I was exercising.
You were getting an exercise session in. But
I was going to the track and running and, doing what I could, but it wasn't as serious. So it wasn't as regimented. And I always knew that I was a type A person, very, very schedule oriented and very, very particular and measured about how I go about things. But I didn't think that I wouldn't I never thought that I would get to a point where downtime wasn't welcomed.
Right.
Until I experienced it. And I said, dude, I just want to go back to school. I just want to go back to the gym. I don't know if it was my idle mind that raced, but the whole period was just not enjoyable.
I could agree.
It was for the first couple days.
Yeah, I mean, there was a short time where after we were not scared, but worried about the virus, and then the end of the quarantine, there was a little window of time where it was like, oh, this isn't that bad, but then it was terrible.
Yeah.
Because it was like all this progress and all this time that we've been putting into this craft, this thing, this journey, it just went down the tubes, it felt like for me. That's what it was feeling like. And actually, I kind of like the setback of this because it's made me take a look at something that you told me early on and over and over. I can't even count how many times that you told me the trend is your friend. The trend is your friend. As long as you're going from 526 and you're lower, always lower, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter what is going on. The trend is your friend. And because I can remember numerous times where we would go week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks where I wouldn't lose any weight. Or I'd lose a pound or 4 pounds instead of 8. And I was mad or I'd get frustrated. And you're like, dude, the trend's your friend. But now I went 12 months and haven't really lost any weight.
And when you have that trend too, I think that it's interesting because you think, it shows how little we know about the human body. And when I say we, I classify everybody into that group.
Yeah.
When you think that you have all the variables nailed down and we could not change any of said variables and keep everything consistent for 3 weeks, you won't lose weight the first week, won't lose weight the second week, and then you'll lose 10 pounds the third week out of nowhere.
Right.
And there's things that aren't really tangible or measurable or quantitative in any way, like stress management and stuff like that. But even those, at least at surface value, appear to be maintained to where they were before. So like, And it's the same thing with going up, with you going down in weight or going up in weight. For me, like I have that discussion with people, and it was something that I had to learn too. I mean, I knew this, but it was hard to convince myself that I believed it.
Right.
Is strength isn't always linear either. So when you think of strength progression and, the goal always being progressive overload, even in a particular context, there needs to be some form of that. So like, obviously we've talked about it plenty of times, more controlled tempo, better technique, higher volume, more reps, more weight, something that you're doing to progressively overload. The one that's most sustainable and easiest to measure would be load, just putting more weight on the bar. So, I knew that it's not feasible to get stronger every workout, but that was the expectation. And I would always get mad if I wasn't, 1 rep stronger or 5 pounds stronger every single training session. And then I had to like really convince myself, because like there were times, especially recently, so that just proves that I'm still not over it. I still have learning to do and understanding to do, and where I wouldn't meet a particular set of reps on a given exercise from what I was supposed to get, based on last week. Like if I got 10 reps with an exercise, I had to get 11 reps this week. And there were times when I wouldn't get it, and it was almost like an enormous disappointment that ruined my day.
Like
and it sounds, and it sounds so trivial and very superficial because it's something so silly. But then I would explain it to people, like, because like my training partners would be like, dude, it's okay, you'll get it next week. And I knew that, and I know that it's okay. But my mind in a convoluted way kind of wraps itself into thinking, you know what? You work every single day at this, and pretty much everything I do throughout the day is aimed at that.
Yeah.
Like everything I drink, everything I eat, everything I do is aimed to be better physically, right? So when you do this entire week of eating foods you don't want to eat, eating the amounts you don't want to eat, pushing yourself very, very hard in training, going to the chiropractor twice a week, going to get deep tissue massage work, taking ice cold showers, doing all this stuff that I do, and you can't get 1 rep out of it.
Right.
So then you look back, and I can't help but think,
is it worth it?
I just wasted that whole week. Yeah. What did I do all that for? Is it worth it? Why am I doing this?
Right.
I went to that seminar that we spoke about last week at Austin's, and we were talking, and the funny story that we'll have to have Austin tell some of his funny stories, because he's got too many to count. But right before I had gotten to his house, he said he was on the toilet going to the bathroom, and he was eating so much food for his previous meal that he was literally projectile vomiting. He said, I got my hands over my mouth trying to conserve calories and keep it in. And we were talking about it at the seminar. And Mark, I believe his name, who was one of the guys that attended the seminar, he's a very well-known coach as well, and a competitive bodybuilder himself. He said, that's one of those instances where you look around and say, like, why do I do this?
Right.
So I have kind of moments of those, why do I do this all the time? But especially when I have instances of what I perceive as a failure. I don't want to say that I dwell on those things. Like, it's not like I'm that neurotic about the 1 rep, but it definitely messes with me for the rest of the workout.
Yeah.
Because then what I start doing, being the analytical person that I am, I start analyzing everything and saying, why didn't I get that 1 rep? Was my sleep off? Was my hydration subpar? I was drinking a lot of water. Okay, well, what was my electrolyte intake? Okay, did I miss any meals? No, I didn't miss any meals. Okay, was my meal timing okay? How was my stress management? Was I getting stressed out about certain things? Well, this did happen the other day, and it kind of, I go through this like checklist.
Micro managing it.
Oh, completely. So bad. Yeah, so bad. And I know, and the worst part is most of the flaws that I have, I'm cognizant of.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I have them. Like, I know that I do this. Like, I know that when I have a bad day, I have a tendency to take it out on people. Mm-hmm. I know that sometimes I bottle up a lot of frustration, so then I take it out on the wrong person by bursting out. I know that everything that I do, well, not everything, but most of the flaws that I have, I'm very self-aware of. Like, I know that I have them, which I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Sometimes I think it's better because, like, well, at least he knows he's like this. But then I also wonder, is that worse because he knows like he's like this and he still can't fix it?
Right, because some people would say, if you know better, then you should do better.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then there would be no problems in the world.
Yeah.
If we could just automatically, oh, I know that, so I just won't do that no more, there will be no issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like people micromanaging you through you. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, I guess. But, like, if you allow yourself to micromanage yourself so much because of the expectations of others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, if you don't look better at your next show, people are going to say, why? What did you slack off?
Mm-hmm.
Then you know darn well that you didn't slack off.
Yeah.
I mean, you know darn well what you had going on was exactly what you needed to have going on. You just, maybe the product just wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's...
Yeah, and I think that everybody cares about the expectations of others.
Yeah.
Because, you're hard on yourself, and I'm hard on myself, but there's also that sense of not wanting to let other people down. So, like, you can try to micromanage and stress about things, but there's also the part that is the bigger picture of not letting other people down as well. So, like, for me, I start getting frustrated with a missed rep because it affects me as a bodybuilder. But then when you continue down the chain of whys, you look at, okay, well, why does that bother you? Well, because I'll look poor on stage. And if you look less than your best on stage, then other people are going to think, this of me or think that of me. So I think that everybody has a deep-rooted concern for whatever people think of them, which is, it happens all the time, though. How many times do you hear people say, I don't, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, where people say, I don't care what people think of me. Like, I don't know, man. I'm one of those people where I've cared a lot more previously, and I'm learning to care a lot less. But to say I don't care what people think of me that would be a lie.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd be lying.
This is pretty cool. I wanted to talk about this with you too. So at some point, but on air is a great time to do it. Iain Valliere is a professional bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. He is, I don't know when he turned pro. He's a Canadian guy. He's actually, I believe, married to or dating, I don't know if it's girlfriend or wife, Chris Bumstead, the Mr. Olympia for classic physique.
Yeah.
He's married to or in a relationship with his sister.
Okay.
And he's also Chris's coach. So Ian's a really well-known bodybuilder, won a couple pro shows, competed at the Olympia last year. So a big name guy.
Yeah.
And this couple weekends ago, he actually won the New York Pro, which ended up, weirdly enough, being in Tampa because of the coronavirus restrictions still. So they had the New York Pro show, but it was in Tampa. But he won the New York Pro, which for anybody that doesn't understand bodybuilding, at least to the highest degree, the Olympia is the pinnacle. That's like the Super Bowl. The Mr. Olympia is the top award in bodybuilding. Below that, you have the Arnold Classic. Like the Arnold is like the next step. Well, of all the other like location shows, like the New York Pro, the California Pro, the Indy Pro, the New York Pro is probably like number 3. So you have the Olympia, you have the Arnold, and then there's like the Arnold Brazil, the Arnold Spain, the Arnold Australia, which are really high. Well, the New York Pro is right up there. It's like one of those top tier shows. So it's a huge show. And he ended up winning it. And I've actually seen him on podcasts getting emotional, like to the point of tears, where he was talking about how much he was affected by this win because a large majority of people think that he didn't deserve it. So there was a ton of controversy with the call-outs and a ton of controversy with the placings. Like people thought like the 4th and 5th place finishers could have won. But, that's coming from a live stream and from pictures. Right. Being there in person is a totally different animal because, some people can look really good in pictures and you see them in person. It's like, oh, it's okay. Then there's other people who look okay in pictures. Then you see them in person. You're like, holy cow. Yeah. So you can't account for just that. But regardless, he was getting a ton of hate. Like when you would go on like social media, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of comments just crushing this dude, saying he didn't deserve to win. He looked terrible and stuff. And, there are a lot of bodybuilding experts who did say, yeah, he deserved to win, who were there.
Right.
But there were also some bodybuilding experts that were there also and said he didn't deserve to win.
Right.
So that's the beauty of bodybuilding is it's subjective. But regardless, he came out in all these podcasts and was super open about how much it hurt him seeing all this.
Right.
And I thought that was so cool because like people, bodybuilders in particular, but everybody who's successful, like athletes, are always told, don't concern yourself with that. Like the lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep.
Right.
You just worry about you. Don't worry about those people. That like the saying that I like, the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. Like, don't worry about that stuff. Well, I thought it was so cool to see him say, like, people talk about they don't care what other people think. Well, I do. And that hurts me when I have thousands of people saying I didn't deserve it because of everything that I went through for this prep and stuff. And I thought that was a real cool exercise of humility for him.
Yeah.
To tell people, hey, I'm one of the best in the world and it still destroys me. Because he said, I want to make everybody happy and I want everybody to like me.
Yeah.
And like you or me or anybody else can say, I don't want anybody, I don't care who likes me, I don't care. But like, if you're given the choice, certainly you're going to think, I want everybody to like me.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be hated.
No one.
Nobody. Yeah. I think it's kind of crazy for people to say, people that just in that particular situation, they weren't stage lean. These people weren't competing in that competition.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't stage lean. They weren't on the stage. They weren't there. You don't have a card in the game. Like, where's your piece at?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, all of them did the work because they're all pros. And they're all on stage.
Yeah.
So to say somebody that won, that's what the panel of judges is for, right? I mean, that's how I guess that's how I think it works, right? There's a panel of judges,
and I think that there needs to become balance too, because you can definitely say those people don't have the credibility to speak on that matter as much as the judges or as the experts and stuff. But I think that's the beauty of sports that are judged is it gives people the ability to have those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can like this physique better than that physique and you both can be right. Like you can say that bodybuilder A is better and this person can say bodybuilder B is better and they can both be right because beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
So I think that there does need to come a little bit of, I don't know if I'd use the word patience, but an understanding on your behalf that when you put yourself on stage, you need to come to grips with the fact that you're going to be judged. And that's what's being put out there.
What you want.
But his is a little bit of a different situation, like because the scenario that he was in, he worked his whole life for this prestigious title. And then he finally achieved like a childhood dream. And it was met with nothing but disgust from everybody.
People were crushing it. That doesn't even make sense. Why somebody feels the need to destroy somebody's dreams.
And I actually I'd sent him a direct message and said how cool I thought it was that he opened up and said, like, I care so much about what people think of me. Mm-hmm. I want everybody to like me. Because I think just putting yourself out in like a vulnerable state like that was so important. And you and I have talked about it before, where we've said stuff or talked about stories on the podcast that have made us both vulnerable too.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, talking about my weight loss or weight gain or failures, talking about that stuff is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Because even the weight loss part of my story is not easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that was a substantial failure on my part. To have to be able to succeed in weight loss to the level that I've succeeded, that people say anyways, because I still don't feel like I've arrived. But to be able to have accomplished that much weight loss means that I failed substantially more than I accomplished.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it that I never thought about it. But obviously you get all these compliments when you lose weight, but your mind being an always forward mentality, like I always got to get better. And I don't want to say a pessimistic mentality because you're not a pessimist. If anything, you're an optimist because you're, always upbeat and always looking on the positive sides of things. But when it comes to like that self-reflective, like, kind of bastardizing in a sense, like I look at myself and I'm never good enough. And I never was good enough. When you see it, it's like you get these compliments of, oh, good job. You lost all this weight. And you perceive it as, hey, you used to be real fat.
Yeah, huge.
If it wasn't for you being fat and being, in your own words, a quote failure, you wouldn't have had to have those successes.
Right. I mean, if I wouldn't have allowed myself to fail at life, I wouldn't be able to be helping people lose, helping people know that they can lose weight just via what I've done.
But when then you look at that, you say, okay, well, yeah, that's true, but was I supposed to be that way then?
I feel I was, honestly.
I have all these things happen to me on a regular basis where, and I'm one of those people where I truly believe everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a saying that gets tossed around very nonchalantly and very casually. But I think that when you analyze it deeper than surface value and you really, really pay attention to it, I think that it holds true a lot. Everything that has happened in my life, I can always trace back and say, okay, this is why that happened. Now, sometimes that reason doesn't manifest itself for a while. So like when something bad happens in my life, it's very easy to say there's nothing good that can come of this. There was nothing beneficial happening to me because of this. There's no way this happened for a reason. But then maybe a couple days later, it presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it presents itself, weeks, months, maybe 5 years down the road, the manifestation of that will come through and you'll say, oh, that's why I was put into that unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's people listening to this that would probably be a little bit resistant to that notion, mainly because, someone has a child who dies or like a miscarriage, or, a family member is innocently killed, or, you have world hunger or, poverty or war. I mean, famine, all the stuff that goes along in the world that's horrible. And say, why does that happen? And unfortunately, I don't have answers for that. All I can say is in my life, everything that has happened seems to have happened for a reason.
I agree.
As far as things that are outside of my own little microcosm here, my own little hemisphere of life, I don't know. I don't know why on a global scale, terrible, terrible things happen. I couldn't answer that. So I don't want to say that everything happens for a reason in other people's lives. It just seems to be the case in my life with things that I've experienced. But
I have to agree.
Honestly, dude, I never knew that or believed that until I started being open to believing that.
Right.
So until I said to myself, maybe everything does happen for a reason. And then I started trying to look for reasons even, because like I said, okay, why would this happen to me? And the more I looked, the more answers I found.
I don't think I started to get that bad feeling that in my life. I don't think I started getting that until I started having a little bit of success in weight loss. Because that changed my attitude of life. That changed my attitude with my day-to-day life to the point now where I literally can have the worst day that I know that I'm ever going to have, and I'm going to do my absolute best to try to find something good out of it.
When I think you can find comfort probably in the fact that regardless of what happens, you're not 526 pounds.
Wow.
So I tell people all the time, with me being in an opposite situation, I'd say, oh yeah, this will happen, but okay, for example, don't want to delve into it too far because it's a long story, but I was not at fault, but I got in a car accident today. Someone rear-ended me at a stoplight. So, that could be something that would you ruin your day. And you get real frustrated about, because now my car's got to get fixed and I waited forever for the police to show up to file the report and all this stuff. But something little like that, being jacked and going through that's better.
Yeah.
If I'm poor and I run out of money, being poor and jacked is a lot better than being poor and skinny.
That's it.
So something as stupid and superficial as muscle gain makes your life better. So for you, no matter what kind of circumstance life presents you with, you can look at it and say, yeah, this sucks, but at least it doesn't suck. Plus I'm not 526 pounds on top of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like if I'm driving down the road and the rear end goes out of my truck 3 years ago, it'd have been devastating because I was going to have to sit there until somebody decided to come pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I could lock the doors and walk home.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. Obviously, I would probably be not okay with the fact that I have to fix my truck, But like I was just making that as a point. Like, yeah, if I was 526 pounds still, there's so many things that I wasn't able to do. It was really hard to be happy about anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So unlocking that part of my life where I decided it was my decision to lose weight. So I found that I can make the decision to not be angry anymore. Like, I don't get me wrong, I still get mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I still have anger. I still have bad days, but even when I have a bad day or an angry day, I try to take a second and be like, wait a minute. Like, the sun came up today,
Yep.
like, my house isn't gone. My wife's still here. We all got jobs. I mean, like, everything. There's food on the table.
I tell this story all the time, and I've told it on the podcast several times, and I want to continue to tell this brief little story for people that haven't heard it. It's like the one day I was at the gym, and Bob comes up to me, our friend Bob,
Yep.
and he says, how you doing, Charlie? And I said, well, I'm alive, because it was a long day, kind of a stressful day, had a ton of clients to train. And I paused. I said, you know what, though, Bob? I said, that's a good thing, because there was a lot of people that woke up today and weren't afforded that, or didn't wake up today, I should say,
Right.
and weren't afforded that opportunity. So the fact that I was able to get out of bed and I'm in the gym, and that's what I would always tell people when they see me in the gym. Say, how's your day going? To say, I'm here training. What could possibly be wrong?
Right.
Like, I have my health, I have the ability to pursue something that I love, and after I'm done lifting, I get to train athletes who I love, and I enjoy doing that too.
Yeah.
So I think that you can put yourself into that total mind frame change when you start taking control of the things that are most important to you. So like for you, it was the weight, because it controlled everything you did, or I should say it controlled everything you couldn't do or didn't do.
Everything in general, my life in general.
So once you did that and you started losing weight, like your mind changes from a I can't to a I can't yet, or I can't right now mentality. And like, I've even seen you from, I don't want to say who you used to be, because it's not like you were any less positive back then, because I don't know if you're more positive now would be the correct way to phrase it, but you're much more understanding now of what you can do.
Right.
Like where the finish, or the invisible finish line is, because there is no finish line.
Where the next goal is.
Yeah.
Where the next checkpoint on the journey is.
And I think that, like, what that makes me think of is I had this conversation with Dr. Livingston, who's a chiropractor, a very good friend of mine who I've been doing a lot of work with. He's outside of Pittsburgh, and he was also going to be a guest on our show very soon. Dr. Livingston and I were talking, and he said that, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but he said it was roughly 30 to 60 seconds. And he said, to be honest, it's even less than that. There is a like neurochemical response to a particular situation. So someone rear-ended me today, right?
Yeah.
There's about a 30 to 60 second response that's like neurochemical, that's physiological, that you can't control, that happens. Like, so mine was anger. I'm sitting at this stop or this red light for 30 seconds at a complete standstill, and this girl crashes into the back of me. All right. So inevitably I'm going to get mad. And that's something that, for all intents and purposes, at least how my mind frame is structured right now, I can't control that. He said, after that, he said, anything longer than 30 to 60 seconds, and to be honest, it's a lot shorter. He said, anything after that is you choosing to maintain that emotion, you choosing to dwell on it. And after I had that conversation with him, I had kind of found that to come into play with me, where I was driving and I had somebody cut me off. Well, the guy was at fault. We were in a roundabout and he went early, whatever. He rolled down his window and started screaming at me, like gesturing and stuff. And the old me thinks, hey, buddy, you don't know who you're doing that to. Like, you wouldn't mouth off if I got out of this car right now. And I wanted to follow him and rip him out of the car. And I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, why are you allowing that to get you mad? And I thought about what Dr. Livingston said. And I said, hey, that couple seconds, that's the uncontrollable response. And as you're continuing to drive down the road angry at that guy, that's on you. Like, you are choosing to feel anger, and you shouldn't. And I was able to completely let it go.
I like that.
Like not even think about it iota after that. It was instantaneously just boom, dropped it. I'm not mad anymore.
Yep.
And then like it was almost like shocking to me as I'm driving home. I thought to myself, "Holy cow! I just let that go like completely," because I realized that is me continuing to dwell on that. I'm
Right.
choosing to hold on to that negative emotion, and it's not doing anything except stress me out more than I need to be.
Right. And that's the thing is, I think we all do that
Yeah,
at some point. Where I don't think I know that we all do that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it's like almost fact that everybody dwells on something so much to the point where it ruins their day. You forget to pay a bill. You
miss a rep that we
miss a
talked
rep.
about earlier.
Oh my goodness! When Charlie misses a rep, old Charlie misses a rep.
Yeah, day
party,
shot.
That party's over, son.
Because
No.
it's like I said, it's because it's a bigger thing. Like I missed the rep, which means I screwed up the workout. I screw up the workout, it screws up my week. My week's screwed up, and then I'm not going to be ready for my show. And then it's like this never-ending waterfall of like me over analyzing and making, a mountain out of a molehill.
The missed rep, I understand 100%, and I have that too, and it's your fault because of the logbook.
Yeah,
because I like my logbook to be trendy. I like it to trend in the right direction. And when I miss a rep or if I write something, I do my logbook a little different than yours, as to where I just try to accomplish everything I write down. It's pretty much the same movements every day, but I want to accomplish what I put on paper. So if I get overexcited for the workout and I write 4 or 5 sets instead of 3, and we physically run out of time because I have a allotted amount of time, I'm mad the rest of the day, the rest of the week, because it's like, this whole week could be great. I could hit PRs on everything, but I didn't do that whole workout. And it shows on paper because I check things off. I make marks.
There's been certain instances where I have to do a particular weight at a particular number of reps or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll actually go to the logbook and write it down first.
Yeah.
So like, let's say, I deadlifted 515 for 5. And then the next week I got to get 515 for 6. I'll go over to the book and write 515 for 6 and come back and tell my training partner, "Hey, Christian, it's in the book. Got to do it now because it's in there. I wrote it down. I have to do this."
Yep.
Because it's going to be like, the walk of shame, marching back over to that counter to over by the front door and erase it and put a 5 instead of a 6.
That's why I write in pen too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want the erase marks. I don't ever, and this is a subconscious thing, I don't ever want somebody to look at my logbook 20 years from now and say, "Why do you have all these erase marks? Are you hiding something?"
Mm-hmm.
To me, and this is just me, because I'll just scratch it out. Like, I'll make it very plain as day that I took it off. That way, whenever I don't remember why I took it off or what the change was, it will make me remember. Like, I literally ran out of time. Like, I was at one point, I was logging the amount of time that I was at the gym. Like, how long was this session?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 4:05 when I got done? Because 4:05 put me really close to not getting to work on time.
Well, the logbook's like the ultimate
tracker
example of self accountability too, right? Because obviously it holds you accountable for what you have to do, but then when you sit back and realize you are the only person that's ever going to see that's pretty profound.
Yeah,
because I'm sure when you were 526 pounds or on your way to that, it was very easy for you to lie to yourself. And
easy.
Like me, when I was, early on in bodybuilding, when I was a bodybuilder by name, but not by practice all the time.
Right.
Like I could skip meals and justify it or just lie to myself and say, I didn't miss any meals.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to lie to yourself. And that logbook gives you an opportunity every single day to lie to yourself and say, "Oh yeah, I didn't get it, but because my back kind of hurt, but I could have got it if I wanted to. So I'll just write 6 anyway, because I could have got that extra rep." There's so many different excuses that logbook allows you to make to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the more often you experience that, like for me, the more often I put myself in situations where I can lie to myself and don't, that shows me self-improvement.
Yeah, I get it. I do. I actually have a funny story. and it has nothing to do with self-improvement.
Okay.
But it kind of does. So my wife's a nurse. She works in the PACU at one of our local hospitals here. So one of the nurses that she works with is a Goggins freak.
Okay.
Like, he loves David Goggins.
Mm-hmm.
He's an endurance athlete. Every time David Goggins does these things where he'll do for 4 days, or it's every 4 hours he'll run 4 miles, he'll bike 4 miles, whatever, for 24 hours. So, and he encourages his followers to do it too. So the first time I ever met this guy, I seen him posting on, I never met him, but I mean interacted with him. I seen him posting that he was doing it. So I was like, I just commented who's going to carry the boats, because that's a Goggins thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. Well, about 4 days ago, I didn't post my workout in the morning like I always do. Because we said we were going to start posting more social media.
Yep.
And we're making a routine.
Yep. And you've really taken off with that. I mean, you post workouts all the time, daily.
Yeah, I try to be every day. So I filmed everything, and I had it typed up in my template, because I type it up, pre-type it up.
Yeah.
And then edit, trim the video back down. I don't edit anything. I just trim the before and after stuff and post it. Well, I got busy at work, never got a break, and it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I look at social media for the first time, and it was my wife. Where's the workout? She commented on my social media. Where's your workout? And I'm like, woman, you just put me on blast. Like, wow. So I just threw it out there real quick. And I texted her, and I said, what was that about, lady? Just messing with her, because that's how we are. We joke. And she texted me back and said, she said, Paul said, who's going to carry the boats? And I was like, what? I don't even know this guy. You know what I mean? Like, But she's like, you don't understand how many people I work with, husbands, and them themselves follow your story. They don't even know you. And I'm like, I guess not. I didn't understand that. But I thought it was really cool. And I guess he wants to do some kind of crazy endurance workout with me. And I'm like, does he know I'm still 300 pounds? Like, I can't do... I could try. I'd probably die, but let's do it, I guess. So it sounds like I got some crazy endurance activity coming up. So
I would say that sounds fun, but that doesn't sound fun.
No. Yes, it does, but it sounds scary. No. I'm kidding. No, but I just thought that was cool, because I didn't know people... I still don't believe that people follow me.
Yeah.
But
and it's kind of like that's the podcast, dude. How many times have we said, like, wow, people listen to this all the time? That's really wild,
right?
Which you're not going to do anything without the intention of it being successful. Like, we didn't record this podcast even in the beginning and not expect people to listen to it, but I think that the amount that it's grown kind of surprised us. At least it surprised me.
Yeah.
I always knew that it was going to be successful, but I didn't know how successful. And I didn't know when that success would come. Like, was it going to come 5 years from now? Was it going to come 10 years from now? Would it be 10 months? Would it be 5 months? Like, would it be within our first couple weeks? Would people listen? You never really knew.
Yeah.
And, I remember on our first couple episodes when we were getting hundreds of listeners.
Yeah.
I said, dude, we got 100 downloads on that episode. We got 200 downloads. Then we got to thousands. And we're like, thousands of downloads. Holy cow. And then, of course, in the future, there'll be a time when we look back and say, oh, that was nothing. Now we got, tens of thousands of downloads or whatever.
I can't help but think. So last week, you remember we kind of deviated last week, and we got into that area where we were nervous.
Yeah.
Talking about politics.
Yeah.
I got a personal message from, his name's Jerome Graham.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a columnist. He blogs about and comments on podcasts and music, and he's a foodie. He posts cool pictures of like intricate foods and stuff. And he said he loved that last week's podcast. He liked the diversity and our ability to have the conversation and engage in those kinds of hard conversations. And I was like, that's weird, because like we were really like low key really nervous about that. I know I was. So I just thought that was cool that he listens to all of our episodes. Like he sent me a message since the beginning. Never even met this guy.
And I think you'll like this story too. Going along with that is I had an individual named Gabe who I met out at Austin's. who number one recognized me from social media because, he said, "Oh, dude, I followed your prep and stuff," because Austin would post pictures of his clients and keep things updated. So number one, it was really cool to meet someone who knew me before I knew them. Like, just like, didn't know me, but just like, seeing stuff on social media. It's like, "Hey, you're No Excuse Charlie, right?" I thought, wow, that is so cool. Because I've had people do that to me at the Arnold and stuff, and it's pretty wild. Again, I'm not overstating. Like, I joked about it, obviously, and I said, "Oh, dude, see, I said, tell you, Austin, I told you I'm famous." But anyway, he has since messaged me and said, "Hey, man," he's like, "I listen to your podcast during my cardio now," because he's, I think, 6 weeks out from a show.
Oh, nice.
And he said, "Hey," he's like, "Dude, I listen to your podcast like when I'm doing my cardio." He's like, "I love it." And then on top of that, and this will really hit home with you because this is your intention with everything that you do. He said that he used to have a podcast too that he had done before casually, in my estimation. And then he said that it would kind of like sparked that little flame for him to get started with it again and kind of reinvigorated his passion for recording a podcast. And like I said, that kind of hits home with you because I know that everything you do is trying to inspire other people.
It is too, man. It really is. Like, whatever. I mean, I'm 18 days into doing push-ups. And the interaction with these people I don't even know, and I'm doing it on a weird social media platform, TikTok. So like, it's a weird TikTok in general to me is weird because I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, I know nothing about TikTok.
Like very, very little interaction. Like, because I don't even know how to do the private messaging and stuff. So, But I've had numerous people comment on these videos. "Man, thank you. I needed this. I really appreciate it. Blah blah blah." And I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, it's just back to it. I'm just a fat guy running, or I'm just a fat guy doing push-ups, and it's helping. Just doing that, or just having these conversations has helped somebody decide they're going to do their podcast again. Or I've had, I have numerous people that message me all the time and ask me for like just dieting tips.
Yeah.
And I tell them all the same. I don't really have the tips. I can give you some pointers on what I did, but it's really just about being determined and wanting to do it for you. And that's the whole thing. Is when people do it for them, they can succeed at whatever it is they want.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. You know what else people should do for themselves?
What?
They should go to Beast Mode Baking, because Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered in order to ensure that they are packed fresh and ensure they are shipped out to you ASAP. They offer a flat rate of $15 of shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in any of Beast Mode Baking's delicious baked goods, please check out Shannon Knorr. That is at SKNORR13 at Shannon Knorr's Instagram. Yes. So hit her up. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Another good episode wrapped up in a little bit over the time threshold that we typically strive for.
Yep.
Next week, we're going to have Austin, my coach, so you guys will get to meet the person that we talk about all the time. Tentatively, I believe the topic that Austin kind of came up with, because I gave him some background.
Yeah.
I said, with our show, we want fitness stuff, but Austin is used to giving like scholarly presentations at huge seminars on very specific topics, like very specific as in how to navigate, lipid profiles on your blood work for bodybuilders, where it's very, very like pigeonholed into one particular thing because he knows so much that he can talk, he does his whiteboard chats about one little thing. And he could talk for hours, if not days, on particular subjects. So I said, we want something kind of broad because our listenership is broad. Like we have people that, most of our people like exercise to some degree because that's kind of what everything is fitness based. But I said, I wanted something that's a little bit more broad. And he said, how about, negative trends and characteristics that he sees in elite level athletes. So we always talk about what does the elite level athlete have that's good? Like they have a drive, they're organized, they have a systematic approach to things, they track things. Like we say all these things that elite athletes have that's good. He wanted to kind of touch on the things that he notices that could be potential downfalls in elite athletes. So like a mental approach or a physical approach that these guys or girls do that actually inhibits them from being their best. And I thought that was a pretty,
I like it.
because this is a guy who's worked with elite level athletes, professional athletes and stuff. So he's seen it firsthand. He's seen, you know, being good at things because of, you know, certain characteristics, and then having other characteristics be your limiting factor. Like, one thing with me in particular, he always tells me is, you know, you're too smart for your own good. He said, I need you to be stupider and not overthink things and just do them.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I will not second guess his coaching calls, because I never second guess what he says, but I overanalyze things in my own regard, which is why I have to have a coach in the first place, because I can't do this stuff myself.
Right.
So yeah, I think that would be a really cool topic.
It's gonna be fun
because, like I said, he has firsthand experience as well with that, so he can say, "Hey, every great athlete I know, or, you know, business owner that I know, or, you know, these are some of the downfalls that they have." So we always tell people what to do to be successful, and he can kind of say what not to do to be successful too.
I like it.
All right, man. So anything else before we close up shop for the evening?
Just keep doing what you're doing. And if what you're doing isn't what you want to do, find what you want to do.
There we go. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode. This has been the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. Thank you for listening, and we will check you guys out with Austin Stout next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I push to the edge and take